Welcome to our second in a series of Wednesday Wind Down with Dan and Friends. So, as we mentioned in the last one, this is for frustrated hikers that want to go out and drink beer and can do neither. So, we're going to talk about it while drinking beer. So, I'm Dan Conger, and tonight I'm drinking Modern Times Fortunate Islands.
Oh, never tried that. I'm Dave, and I am using as a relaxant Bear Republic Racer 5 IPA.
Very nice. So this week, Dave's going to share some CalTopo ideas with us, and my unofficial title is "How Awesome is CalTopo?" And I mean, Dave, how awesome is CalTopo? Tell me what you think about it.
It is very awesome. Sorry, I was typing a quick reply. So I stumbled across it like 4 years ago. I don't know, can't remember exactly where or how. But as I understand and I didn't go researching this because it's a wind down. I don't want to do a whole bunch of homework. So, but my understanding is essentially the guy who started CalTopo moved to the Bay Area. He's a software guy, moved to the Bay Area, got involved with a search and rescue team, and realized they didn't really have a good tool for organizing things. So he's like, well, I've got this background. Let me see what's doable. So he created an interface to create maps for the local search and rescue team. And then I think he expanded it a little bit larger and made it available to other people. And then he realized I've already done all the infrastructure. If I can find mapping sources, I've already got my framework is there. I can just load it in, and he turned it into that's why it's called CalTopo. But it's now nationwide and a free resource to everyone, but there are paid tiers as well. And it's awesome.
I think that was something that threw me at first when I first heard about it. I'm like, well, what if I want to look at maps outside California? I thought it was limited, but that makes sense that's how it originally started was coming out of California. So, well, I think you want to share your screen and kind of take us into some of the features of CalTopo?
Sure. Let's see. So I'm hitting share screen.
Pick the right screen you want.
Yeah, that's the thing. Oh, that's the one I want. So this is my web browser, and right off the bat, I've got can you see that?
There we go.
Okay, so you can see that there's this is one of their about CalTopo pages, but they have the free level, a basic, pro, and a desktop. I have no idea what the desktop does. I've been using the pro for 4 years now because I was able to get it reimbursed when I first started using it, and since then I've just continued because I think it's a great product. But anyone using it, even without any sort of an account, you can print up to an 8.5 by 11 map. There's not a whole lot more you can do with it. You have access to most of the base layers, which we'll show in a moment. If you do the $20 a year plan, you can save more maps on the website, and you can print up to 13 by 19 inches. And then on the this is kind of crazy, on the $50 a year plan, you can actually print up 48 by 40 inches or 4 foot by 4 foot maps you can generate. Finding a printer that actually printed that would be tough, but
yeah, right.
It'll support it. So anyway, the pricing structure is $0 for the free, $20, $50, and $100 for this desktop version, which I don't know much of anything about.
Well, before we started, I was mentioning to you that I've been using the free version for multiple years, and I might jump up to the $20 a year for two reasons. I'm kind of liking this. There's an app, the CalTopo mobile app that I'm interested in trying. I've never used it, and it'd be great to support them at some level. So that's what I'm gonna. But I've done really well with just the free version as well.
Yeah, the free. I mean, and we were talking about this. We can look at one of your study maps later, but it will get you most everything that you want. And if you know someone who happens to have the paid version and give them some coordinates, they can make a map for you.
Ah, okay, awesome.
Yeah, so that's a possibility. So down at the bottom, it'll tell you things that are additional things that are supported. But enough of that. So we'll move back into the main CalTopo page, and this is the Pine Valley area near Highway 8. And I got to move because man.
Yeah, you can drag that up.
Yeah, I got to drag
your little video box.
So right off the bat, a couple of things to look at. I did a search, which you can see here, for Pine Valley, California. If you do a search for Pine Valley, it's very non-specific and it'll take you somewhere else. So you do need to be specific if you can. If you have coordinates, you can type those in there, which works out even better.
That doesn't look like our Pine Valley.
That's not our, it says Lindenwood Wood here or something. So yeah, so the search feature might be a little bit better, or you can see the examples it shows. You can put Truckee, California, or some specific coordinates, including UTM coordinates if you want to use them. So that's a quick and easy way to find where you want to get to, or you can just let me go back to Pine Valley, California, so that people will recognize some of our local landmarks. So it has a zoom in, zoom out feature, which you can also configure on your mouse with the movable wheel or on a touchpad on a laptop. But the other option, so you can do a large scale map, and you can just sort of follow the 8 down until you head out to the desert if you're looking for some particular place out in the desert, and then start zooming back in to find out where you want to be. So pretty quick and easy way to walk around the place. Over here on the top right, it will...
I'm going to pause you for a second there, Dave.
Yep.
So if you can't see where Dave is putting his mouse, you can click on the little video box with Dave's head on it and click on it and just drag it out of the way.
Oh, so yeah.
I had to move mine so I could see what you're doing.
Else, yeah. We're going to have to do that several times, I think, today. So yeah, on the top right, it has the base layer source, and right now I have it set to something called scan 7.5 minutes. And this is essentially a merged together copy of all of the USGS maps, the quads that we all like at the 7.5 minute scale. And this is one of the many. I mean, there's many available base layers that you can see, and I am not logged in, so this is available to someone without the app. So the Scan 7.5 is the USGS maps. They also have this map builder Topo, which is, I think, OpenStreetMap sourcing, but it's still a topo map, but it will show, except I picked a not the best area, so I'm just dragging along. This actually will show trails that are out there as well. So
yeah, that's one of the things I've noticed between the different types of maps. Some show more trails and some have fewer trails. It kind of depends upon their source for data.
That's right. And so the USGS stuff doesn't have that many data sources, and it has whatever's there. And this, depending on which map you're on, you might be doing a 1975 map, or some of the stuff out in the desert might be the 60s, because they did much less frequent refreshes of those maps. If you pay the big money, there is an option down here to add new layers, and you can actually put in custom sources. So you can actually, if you know how to tile maps, you can somehow get them in here. I don't know how to do it. I've never tried it.
Dave, a question just popped up that this might be a good time. Is Kelly asked, what are those blue lines, and how do we get those on there?
Okay, so the blue lines are UTM coordinates. So they're like 1 kilometer squares. And if you go into the configuration file or configuration box and hover over it, it will give you all of these options. So I have it selected here to display more intently now. They show UTM or US National Grid lines, and then it's selectable on or off. So
nice. Okay.
yeah, and I just like using that because it gives me roughly a half-mile thing in my head to play with. So for guesstimating distances, as long as we're in here, it always defaults to the World Grid System 84 as the map datum. It also has NAD 27. If you're using or if you're looking at older data, it might be like the Scan 7.5 maps. It might be better to use the NAD 27, because then if you put UTM lines on, they'll line up if they're also on the other map.
So if I'm ready to draw draw a route or trace some lines, how do we do that?
All right, well, let me go to you have a lot of options. Let me go to Inner Pasture here, which is something I was playing around with earlier. And so this is an area in our local Anza Borrega Desert, and many of us have been out here. It's a very cool hike. If you know of a spot, you have an option like I know roughly where a campsite is, so you can click on the left-hand side under New Object, select Marker, it'll give you a red dot. You bring that up to roughly the area you want it, and I got to move the the video thing again. Give it a label like camp. You can select various things and then just hit OK. So that is how to draw an object, one type of object, a simple marker. You can also draw lines saying, oh, we're gonna go on a hike. So you select lines, and I'm doing this off a laptop with a trackpad. So to draw it, I'm actually gonna hit Shift and click, and then I'm just gonna drag this out. So if we wanted to walk around from that campsite out to what should be, and in fact is a spring way out on the other side of that ridge, you can click to there, double click at the end, and it'll give you that trace. And these things you can highlight them and edit them. And when you do that, you can do things. Hang on, there we go. You can change the color quite easily. Just select something else. It'll change it. You can change, various little things.
Probably, yeah. That's probably almost that's definitely beyond the 101. But that's
right.
Those are cool. Now, can we go back to the line? When you put your mouse on the line.
On the line, okay.
Okay. If we notice in the upper right-hand corner, it says it's 3.45 kilometers or 2.14 miles.
Yep.
So I use that even if I'm doing a day hike. Like, how long is this route? Ooh, I really didn't want to do 15 miles. I was hoping to do more like 8.
Yeah. So if you get a little ambitious, it can help you keep your sanity a little bit better.
Yeah. Right.
So,
nice.
Yeah. And there are other things you can do real quick off of things like polygons and lines. Over here, there's a statistics sort of thing. It'll make an elevation profile. So it'll take that, and as you can see the blue line moving on the track as you come along. You can see where I accidentally nipped it going right over a hill here. So so this will give you your total elevation change, and both positive and negative, and you can select any range of it. So this is pretty handy. The only problem with this is you can't export it. So if you want to export this sort of data, you want to do something else and like somehow get it into Excel so you can play with it. But that's not basics either.
Now, you'd mentioned there's a way to bring data into CalTopo.
There is. So this is the random thing that I just drew. If you go to import, this, I don't have a Garmin GPS, but I think this connects directly to your Garmin to import stuff. And then there is a browse function to import these other file types, which I've clicked on, but the bandwidth is a little slow. So this is an interpasture hike that has already been entered in here. So I'm going to import all these things. Just select them all, and then import them. It'll take a moment. It tells me, is this what you want to do? You always have the option. So I'm just going to say, yeah, import everything. So this puts all of those separate tracks in there. So each one is a separate track.
So those are original
one. Those are tracks that I've manually drawn, or I've imported from a GPX track that I walked the path.
Back in the days, I used to do this with National Geographic, a topo. I'd go out there, wander around, and then where was I? I knew I was never lost, but I could dump it into the mapping. So that's cool to be able to do that. But it does give you a lot of flexibility on how you can deal with this.
Oh yeah, you have tons of options. Zooming in a little bit, you can edit any of these things if you want. Let's see here. Let's try this one, and we'll go back into edit. So if you decide that's, there's a lot of points on this. I'm trying to zoom in. It's taking a little time to do so. If you want to, you could drag any of these. Oops, it's still doing this. If you wanted to add, move something out, you have the option of taking your time to add an extra loop in. So if you just wanted to change your course, you could sever it at one point, draw something new, and merge it back together, or you can just drag stuff off to be the way you want it, and whenever you decide that's okay, it'll save it that way.
So you can actually edit the line, the arc of the line.
Yep, and it'll also update at the top here where the distances and such.
Nice.
So let's see, what else do we want to talk about here? Oh, you want to go into Well, here's something that everybody's going to find useful, actually. If you go to the measure, you can take a measure any distance. Just click on that, click, drag something out, click again, and it'll just tell you what distance you have. So these are all things everybody should just play with this for a long time. But this one's really cool. So if you click NOAA forecast under the measure and the bolded point thing, you click anywhere you want, click it, and it'll open up a new tab giving you the NOAA website and their weather forecast for 7 days.
So it takes the actual Latin long, places it, integrates it with NOAA.
Yeah, it puts that into the search bar for NOAA. And I've tried doing Latin long before in the NOAA website, and it didn't seem to like it, but this gets around that. So you can, if you can find it on CalTopo, you can get the forecast for a week, up to a week out.
Because when I'm going to go on a summer or even a weekend trip, I want to know what kind of weather gear should I bring, and this is going to tell you very specifically to that region. I'm going to interrupt for a moment and just remind people that we're about halfway through our time. Continue to put Q&A into any questions into our Q&A section there, and we'll have about 5-10 minutes towards the end to answer those. So do them now as they keep coming up. So very nice, Dave.
So let's see. Oh, you want to talk briefly about printing? So is that right?
Before we print, how about saving?
Oh, so saving, yeah. So saving, you can save a map. I've not tried it when you're not completely logged in. I usually do it from when I'm logged in. Yeah. So you can't save it without doing some work. So it wants to have an account, which you can sign in with any of these things or any email address. And I'll just give you assign you an email address.
Something just occurred to me that if you can sign in with, I have 6 different Gmail accounts for all these different organizations that I work with. Yep. So I could have five saved maps from each login theoretically, if I could keep track of it.
If you could keep track of it, you could.
I think the $20
system a little bit, but
$20 just might be worth it, right?
I think that'll save your sanity a little bit.
True.
So to me, it was worth it getting the version I went for. So let me just click sign in with Google if it responds.
Everyone, close your eyes when Dave types in his password.
No, that's stored, fortunately. So, yeah, like I trust you peoples.
What?
Oh, did I say that out loud? Sorry. So I zoomed way out accidentally. No, I didn't. It's just all these things are on top of each other. All right. So once you've done that, you can, and you create the account with just an email address and a password. You can click save. And you have several options. You can make, viewable, completely private, or completely publicly viewable, and then you can put some comments down. And you can password protect it, so you can only share it with set people if you want. So
you could save this map and share the URL and give me a CalTopo map that I could look at through my web browser.
That's right. If it's saved by me, you can look at it, but you can't modify it.
Okay.
So, which is actually a good thing to have, because as we all know from being too collaborative, people can mess up other people's documents.
Cool. So, okay. Could you show us how to print, and then we'll jump over to my map that I was going to show.
Yep. So up along the top, so we've just been to save. This is the add is the same as adding objects down here. Importing, we just talked about. Well, we didn't talk about exporting, but you can also export GP extracts, which are compatible for GPSs. So all you do is click on it, and it'll by default select everything. You can unselect everything. You can say, "Oh, I only want that one to go." And then when you click export, it will usually choose on it for a minute and then ask you what you want to do, and then just save the file. And for my case, it goes to the downloads file by default. Nice. So if you draw something on here, like, oh, this is a cool route, I'm going to figure out the new way to get to Mount Kilimanjaro from Inner Pasture. Mm-hmm. You can then share that save that to your own device. So anyway, moving on. Go ahead.
Okay.
So if you want to print something, the only options I've bothered to use is print to PDF. So this allows you to create a geospatially tagged PDF file, which essentially means that it's a regular PDF with an overlay, which is all of the Latin long information that you need.
Okay.
So it opens up a new browser window. At least the way I have it configured, it'll open up a new browser window, and I've got it set to the 48 by 48 in my account. So for the free account, your options are going to be 8.5 by 11.
Mm-hmm.
So you can print out in a portrait or landscape mode. You can print out 8.5 by 11. If you want to force it to 1 to 24,000, if you don't care about the scale, you can put it anywhere, any amount that you want. Just drag it so that it's big enough, and it will scale it accordingly as whatever you need.
Okay.
Most hikers this would be a great overview map. Most hikers sort of have 1 to 24,000 fixed in their brains. So what I would probably do would be to make a couple of maps. So you actually have an add a page option down here on the left, near where my mouse is circling. And if you click that, it opens up and gives you a second one that, again, you can move around. And then you decide what spaces you want. So this, as it's drawn, the highlighted area shows you where you come off the road and where you go through this canyon. And it shows you what you need for the map, including the camp. And on the other page, it shows you the majority of Inner Valley and shows you some of the hills around it.
Very
so
nice.
If I was happy with that, you just click. Well, before you do that, you can title it if you want to type in any sort of random stuff. I always put UTM grid lines on there, and I like to have the Latin long lines on there as well, around the periphery of the map.
Okay.
And then you can save it for various lengths of times. For this, we'll save it for 7 days because we don't care. And other ones, another option you have when you're done is to simply download it onto your local hard drive. So you click Generate Map. It takes you to a new page where it chugs away for a few minutes, trying to decide what it's doing. So it's done now, and what it's done is it's generated an overview map showing you here's page 1 and page 2, and then it shows you page 1 and page 2.
Very nice.
So, and you can see that you have these UTM coordinates in here. You have the other information that you've already typed, and you've got Latin long in there as well. And it has the scales down at the bottom, like every good map will have. I'm trying to get my video boxes out of the way.
Yeah.
Magnetic declination is on here. It'll tell you what map datum you used. Tells you the scale, 1 to 24,000, quite literally 1 inch of anything on the map is equal to 2,000, or 24,000 of something in the real world. So 1 inch is equal to 2,000 feet. Okay, and then it has these scales that you can use right here. So
Dave, let's switch screens so I can share mine for a couple minutes.
Yep, I'm going to stop sharing now.
Stop sharing, and then I will bring it right back. So I'm going to share a map that I have created.
Hey, DJ.
So this is a map that I've created, and this is what I'm hoping to do for my summer trip. Who knows what my summer trip will be, but that's my goal, right? So this is going from Seki, or Sequoia Kings Canyon, down to Mineral King. So I'm just scrolling in, and I have the map builder topo set up right now, and I've created markers on this line. And the way I created these, I traced my line on the route I wanted. And when I click on the route, I believe this was I modified and created points, and I created them every 1 mile, and I prefaced them with the M. So starting at 1 mile, it has mile 0, mile 1, mile 2, mile 3. So the reason I did that is, if we look at my total route length, it's 43.45 miles. Well, I wanted to divide that up into 7 days, and I said, well, the first day I'm going to travel in, so I have a short day, and I placed this extra marker here. But then I figured out, I added a custom marker for the Avalanche Pass because that didn't show. And then here's my next camp. So those are custom markers that I put on there. The other one that I wanted to show you that you didn't get a chance on yours is I can create one of these. I can create a new line. So this is, let's see if we can remember how to do this one. It's, is it, okay.
What did you
I
wanted to add, like a day trip off to somewhere else or something?
yeah. Oh, it's add a line. Okay.
Yeah. So add marker line. Yeah.
Yeah. So what happens is when I click on this line, it's going to snap to, even though if I wanted to go straight up here, which no sane person will want to do, I can just click right here and it will snap to that line. Now I'm going to do this. I'm doing this with a mouse, right? This makes it, trying it doing with the trackpad is insanity. But with a mouse, it works really well. So,
Yep.
so I think one of the things that we'd like to pass on about this one is that you need to get into CalTopo and just start playing with it, right? Because there's no way we can show you all in 20 or 30 minutes everything that you need to know. So you need to spend some time in there.
A long shot. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
There are, I'm trying to think, well, I'll send this to Dan. When we finish this up, I'll send you, and you can put it in the show notes or whatever you want to call it for the YouTube, if you're going to do that again. But we found a couple of CalTopo. It's on the deck of slides that we gave to the WBC students, but it has some tutorials and videos. But yeah, the bottom line for this thing is just getting in there and playing. You can't break it. It's a website. So you can go on there without being logged in. You can do all of those things. You can't save it, but you can do it. And if something goes wrong, just go, oops, and close the window, and just make yourself comfortable. And once you do that, there's all sorts of things for like teaching tools that we could use in WBC. There's a feature where you can pick a point and you can say, show me everything that's visible from 2 meters above the ground from this point, and it'll shade everything out that you can see, which is really helpful because there could be dead ground, but you don't know it's dead ground.
Yeah.
And within the WBC context where we're trying to teach people map reading skills, that's really helpful. And you can do that with a clear acetate overlay on another piece of paper if you don't want to put it on your main map. So there's just too many features to really talk about. But if you want to plan any trips, this is the best tool I can think of.
Couple questions here. Mike asked, is this useful for your emergency contact person, or is that overkill? I found that if I'm going someplace that doesn't have a description, I will leave a map for my emergency contact at home. But if I'm going someplace that does have a description or a trailhead name or something like that, or a route, I'll leave that information. So I try not to leave a specific map, but that could be valuable. If I'm going to go exploring in some place that's, especially if it's off trail and it's not even near a route, I will do that one. So,
yeah, I mean, part of what we talked about last time is safety plans.
Yeah.
As well as your trailhead, you could put this as a PDF, so they don't even have to know. And it's like, here's what they told me they had planned, and you could email that to them or fax it to them. So it could be useful for an emergency contact to be forwarding on.
There was one other question here that I wanted to have. Oh, what's your favorite layer, Dave?
I have to take a look at them. I don't know.
So there's I kind of like the topo hybrid works. Well, no, it's not it's a CalTopo version.
Or the map builder hybrid.
Topo. I don't like that. The hybrid doesn't work for me.
Yeah.
The other one that I kind of like mainly for trails is the Forest Service. There's a 2016 and a 2013 or something like that. There's two different versions of the Forest Service. I just like the look of the map. It's if I'm trying to find a trail. So sometimes I'm trying to find a trail in a particular area, so I'll toggle between them all. Then the other one that we didn't get a chance to see, but everyone will have to look at on their own, is there's a fire layer. It shows recent wildfire. So if you're going to do a real adventuresome trip, you could find out an area when it last burned. So if it burned last year, you could go through clear cut. You could go through if it was clear cut.
Right.
But if you went through 2 years later or 3 years later after some heavy rain, there might be a lot of heavy vegetation. So there's something to know.
Yeah, especially if it's what's that really annoying thing that comes back after fires that the
Ooh, yeah, a poodle dogbush. Yeah,
poodle dogbush. There you go. Yeah. So I'm just looking at the layer options right now. Forest Service, I like the looks of their maps, but they're only for Forest Service lands.
Right.
So if you were to do that's where interpasture is, you get nothing. So possibly either the map builder hybrid or the scan USGS maps, knowing that while the mapping information is still good, the more recent man-made stuff will be a little different
Sure.
because it might be a 1975 map.
So we're out of time. So I got couple things to just wrap up with. Go to caltopo.com. Right, great folks there. It's a great tool. Spend some time in there and look or play around with it. Just spend some time in it. You can't break it. Play with it.
Yeah.
The other one is that there's a lot to digest on this. So that's why playing around with it is suggested. This video will be on YouTube. Probably, I'm going to try and do it tonight. If not tomorrow, it'll be on YouTube, and everything will be on there, just cleaned up a slight amount. And then next week, I'm going to share my gear on my pack. So I'm going to share how we had a question last week. It's like, I want to know how you do 34, 36 pounds for a week in the backcountry. It's like, okay, well, I just double checked my pack weight, and I'm pretty consistently at 34 pounds for a week in bear country. So that means bear can and all the food and a little bit of extra fuel. But that also translates into about 21 pounds if I'm going on an overnight. So it's not particularly ultralight. It's not heavyweight. It's somewhere in between, and I'll just kind of share some of my stuff. So that's what we're going to do next week. And then probably the week after that, we'll probably do a travel log on a trip that I've done before. So kind of share some highlights on a trip and kind of see how a week-long trip went for those of you that haven't been on it. So Dave, hey, thanks so much for sharing everything that you know about CalTopo. We appreciate that.
Yeah, thanks for letting me join you again. That was fun.
Okay. So look for us on YouTube, and we'll see you back at the same time next week. Thank you all. We'll see you soon.
See ya.